Welcome back to another episode of Walk from Christ podcast, show where we inspire the masses to become financially free while building God's kingdom. Today is just your boy Dami, and today we're going to talk about focus on you, so the focus is you. So oftentimes, we as people, we want to reach success, we want to reach, have the power, have all this accolades, we want people to recognize us for the things that we do. But oftentimes we never want to grind. We never want to, you know, understand, build a proper discipline, you know. So when you are this, the spotlight, you are the main event, you're able to handle situations, things. It's easy to grow and fix things, when you're not known, when there's not that much pressure. Because once the light is on, oftentimes people can fall under pressure. People don't know how to act. That's why sometimes celebrities, as they get bigger and bigger, they become very stressed out because they wasn't practicing certain discipline, and you can see that all across the board. Not only with celebrities, with preachers, whatever it may be, wherever God has called you to be. It's important to practice. It's important to grind. It's important to continue to work on yourself. While you can, while the spotlight is on you, because once the spotlight is on you, it's so much harder. It's so much harder to grow. It's so much harder to one, but not that it's not possible, but it's just like there's more pressure, and the less pressure you have on yourself, while you're growing, while you're grinding, while you're getting better, it's much easier when you do have people, when you have a team to lead, when you have a nation to lead, it helps, when you practice, you get rid of all these bad behaviors that could hinder you, things that people have said, that may rub people off the wrong way. You can correct it now, while you're not known, while you're not, I guess, quote unquote, the main idea, like I always said, something I personally believe in is that money doesn't change people. Money just exposes who you are. So if there's things that you're struggling with and you're not so much much proud of, this is the time to work on. This is the time to get better at what you're finding. This is the time to learn how to control your anger. This is the time to learn how to become more patient. This is the time to draw closer to God now, when money, all this power, all these things that you desire are not necessarily involved. Because once those things get involved, it will be much harder to do so. It will be much harder to stay focused on what is important, which is growing, you becoming a better person. And I think one of the great examples of this is King David. King David, before he was a king, he was a shepherd. He took care of his sheep, and you can read in the Bible how he will, save his sheep from the mouth of bears and lions and all these predators that will be after his sheep, that he will protect them. And I guess one thing that always, surprised me, not surprising, but amazed me about David's story is how humble he was. Like, he really was always working on himself and wanted to, always work on himself, and he necessarily didn't um, push himself to become well known. Like, he wasn't after the fame and all that. He stayed grounded. He was very grounded to his roots. And even though he eventually did become king, he went through a whole lot of process that you can tell he was a humble man. He was grinding. He was, meditating. He was trying to get closer to God during this time. Um, and it paid off. And when he became a king, God was able to help him win so many battles, even as a king, help rule the nation of Israel for a very long time. And when you think about it, is that he was focused on himself until the focus was him. Um, like when Prophet Samuel had came to anoint a new king, God told him to go to David's father's house, and all his brothers came out, and like, of course, like any person, we judge people based on their physical appearance, first. And just like Samuel, he's a human being. He judged his brothers based on their physical features. They were strong, they were tall, they were handsome, all these different things. But their heart was not with God. They didn't have the right discipline. They didn't have the right um, character, that God was looking for them to, for God to anoint them as kings to rule a nation, rule his own people. And if you read it, if you read it here, you'll see that, David was not even in the lineup. So that's the thing. David was not even in the lineup at all. When Prophet Solomon came, like he was not even in the lineup. He was not even considered. His dad didn't even think about him. Like that's what I'm calling David, and that's what. And that's what it is. Some of us are grinding. Some of us are working hard. And we're hoping one day, and all this hard work will pay off. And the truth is, people always going to count you out. People are always going to overlook what you're doing. People are always going to not value what you're doing. But when God values you and when it's your time to shine, you will shine. But you have to be prepared for the moment. You have to be prepared for the opportunity. You know, um, Oftentimes people say opportunity comes once in a lifetime, and who knows if David wasn't a great shepherd, he wasn't one after God's heart, and was not someone who constantly was working on himself to be a better person. You know, we can't. Who knows if he would have become a king still? And I guess we can quickly read um, First Samuel 16. I forgot what verse is this, but First Samuel 16, 7, 10 to 13. Well, the Lord says to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Jesse had 7 sons pass before him, but Samuel said to him, the Lord has not chosen these. So he asked Jesse, are these all your sons you have? They're still youngest. He is tending the sheep. Samuel said, send for him. We will not sit down till you arrive. So he sent for him and had brought him in. He was growing with health and had fine appearance and handsome features. Then the Lord said, arise and anoint him. This is the one. So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers. And from that day on, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. And you can see, just like I said, his dad even counted him like worthy to even want to become a king. His dad looked at him that he's young. He's just a little boy that just tends to the sheep. What can he know about ruling a nation? But it's not what David knows, just about his heart posture to God, his heart posture to want to learn, of humility. You can definitely, like, you read David's story, you can see how humble he was. He became, what the Bible called the man after God's heart. And to always be a man after God's heart, you have to be humble. You have to be constantly seeking godly wisdom. And that's what David did. And, God, raised him up to a level that his father would never thought he would get to, because he was just a young boy. He was the youngest. He tended sheep. It's not like he was like his brothers who were part of the military, I believe. Um, but anything, even when you look at David's story, you continue to read it, you realize he continued to work on himself. Even when he fought Goliath, him being able to fight bears and fight wolves and whatever to prepare these different predators to prepare his sheep, prepare him for the fight to God, because he understands if God was able to protect him, yeah, God can definitely protect him from a man. Um, and and he was able to defeat Goliath. And you look at the people, God already raised him, God already, anointed him as king. And then people start to acknowledge it. Oftentimes God will appoint you, God will already raise your status, raise who you are. But people may not recognize it at that moment. And I think that makes a lot of people fall because, we want, once God says something about us, we want it to happen immediately, but it may not happen immediately. The Bible reminds us that 1,000 years like a days in God's eyes. So you don't know, and you don't know when that promise is going to fulfill. You don't know, but all you can do is continue to grind. All you can do is continue to work on yourself. Continue to focus on you until the focus on you. And, once you do that, when opportunity comes, when preparation meets opportunity, it only leads to success. And I could say that you can see that in David's life that despite being counted out by his own family, but despite being counted out by his own brothers, even the prophets, Prophet Samuel didn't even think of, he looked at his brothers, like tall, they're strong, they're older, so they must have some quality of a king. But it was this young man, David, who was tending the sheep that became the king of Israel. It was this young man, David, who people were like scared for him to fight Goliath, but he was the one who had the courage to to defeat Goliath and give Israel peace. He's the same man that Saul was after, but yet, because through godly wisdom, God leading him, he spared his life, and God, handled Saul on his own. So it just shows that, it's important to just focus on you, focus on God, practice the things that you do now, because it's much easier to fix these things now compared to when you get bigger. Yes, David would make a lot of mistakes, while he was king, but that doesn't change the fact that he was not one that worked on his skill. He was one that always tried to become better, always trying to be better, and always try to do the right thing. And that's all we can do is try to do the right thing, always try to become the better version of ourselves, continue to evolve as a human being. Because you never know when the opportunity comes. And like I said, opportunity comes once in a lifetime. And if you're not ready, you may miss the opportunity. It's not that God was not answering you. Just like I said, it takes time for sometimes the gift, the promise that God has for us to take place. So that's pretty much all I have for today, for you guys. I hope this blesses somebody. I hope you guys continue to stay focused on yourself until the focus is you. And see you guys next week. And if you guys haven't yet, you guys can download my free study guide on my website, which will show how you can get started and invested completely for free. And see you guys next week. Remain blessed.